My fiancée insisted I undergo cosmetic surgery so she could show me off to her social circle. I saw her true colors and left immediately. I, 32M, work as a marketing consultant for a mid-sized firm, and I've always considered myself relatively confident, at least comfortable in my own skin. I'm not a fitness model, but I stay in decent shape, dress reasonably well, and take care of my hygiene. Until recently, I never imagined physical appearance could become a deal breaker in my personal life. But I guess when pride, entitlement, and an obsession with status collide, all sense of reason goes out the window. My fiancée, now ex-fiancé, pushed me into a corner I didn't even know existed, insisting I get cosmetic surgery so she could show me off to her social circle. The depths of her entitlement caught me completely off guard, leaving me stunned at how much she was willing to manipulate me. Yet, it led to my discovery of her true nature, which was far uglier than anything a scalpel could fix. I met my ex-fiancée about a year and a half ago, introduced by a mutual acquaintance during a charity event. At first glance, she was charming, confident, and definitely poised. Her family seemed fairly well-to-do, and she often hinted at how her parents wanted her to find a partner who matched their ambitions. She was a couple of years younger than me, but came across as more worldly. She had this regal air, claiming she'd grown up socializing in elite circles, but at the time, I interpreted that as cultural exposure instead of elitism. Back when we started dating, I didn't see any red flags. She was sweet in her own way, taking me along to fancy restaurants, introducing me to a few friends who seemed reasonably nice, and showering me with affection. She never outright criticized how I looked. At most, she'd give small suggestions like which colognes smell better, or if I should consider wearing a different hairstyle. None of it struck me as controlling. I just figured she had a flair for style. But over the months, I started noticing subtle put-downs disguised as jokes. She'd tease me about my unremarkable jawline, saying silly things like, sharper features are in right now, and then she'd laugh it off. If I pointed out that I didn't appreciate the comment, she'd backtrack. "Oh, I'm kidding, you're handsome. Just imagine how you'd look with a more defined chin." Or she'd hint that I might want to get my teeth whitened yet another shade or try out a new skincare routine. It was never phrased as, "You must do this," but it chipped away at my confidence just enough for me to start second-guessing if she was right. Her family was also quite image-conscious. Whenever we had dinner with them, I noticed how meticulously they dressed. Her father would wear these custom-tailored suits, and her mother looked like she stepped out of a country club advertisement. They'd never say anything insulting to my face, but there were constant backhanded compliments. "You look good in that blazer, though a slimmer cut might really accentuate your frame," or "You have such kind eyes, but have you thought about wearing color contact to make the pop?" That last suggestion genuinely threw me off. Color contacts to make them pop? At first, I rationalized their attitudes. Maybe that's just how they were raised. Fashion, aesthetics, maintaining a polished facade. As time went on, I saw that these subtle hints were just stepping stones to bigger criticisms. And the biggest bombshell dropped a few months into our engagement. We got engaged around our 1-year mark. She had orchestrated an elegant little setup in a garden. She gave a sweet speech about how she'd love to spend her life with me. In that moment, I was too wrapped up in romance to notice how choreographed the entire thing was. Right after we got engaged, she seemed to ramp up a bizarre project, planning the wedding along with planning my improvements. She set up a consultation for me with a plastic surgeon, without even telling me first. One afternoon, she mentioned, "There's an appointment next week I'd like you to come to with me. It's for a consultation about a small procedure." When I pressed her about what it was, she admitted it was about jawline enhancement. I was stunned. I asked why on earth she thought that was acceptable. She launched into a monologue. Don't take it the wrong way. My social circle is very appearance-focused. I want to present us as a power couple. A refined jawline is just one of those subtle things that can turn you from nice-looking to incredibly striking. Imagine how you'd look in our wedding photos. My father always says first impressions are everything. I just stared at her. I asked if she was joking or if this was some twisted test to see how far I'd go for her. She insisted it was for our mutual benefit because she wanted us to both shine. When I declined, she got huffy, telling me I was being dramatic. That night, we had our first major fight. She called me stubborn. I called her superficial. We ended up not talking for a day, and she eventually apologized, sort of She said she'd respect my decision for now, but asked me to keep an open mind. A few weeks passed, and life returned to a semblance of normal. We still argued sometimes about wedding details, especially about how fancy it should be. She wanted a lavish event at a country club, while I preferred something smaller. We compromised on a mid-size venue, but she was insistent on controlling the invitation list. The cracks were showing. Then came another surprise. She started telling me that her mother and father were quietly urging me to polish up. She implied that if I wanted their approval, a bit of cosmetic enhancement might help. She also revealed that some of her wealthy friends from her social circle had already had procedures done, and it was just considered normal. They won't say anything to your face, but they will judge, she whispered. I don't want you to get the short end of the stick in conversation. That remark made me realize something was very wrong. She wasn't trying to protect me from judgment. She was trying to keep up appearances so she could show me off. I never felt so objectified. Over dinner that same week, I tried to address the issue head-on. So, you want me to alter my face so you can impress your friends and family? She pouted. You're oversimplifying it. I just want us to fit in with a sophisticated crowd. That sounds like exactly what it is. I'm fine the way I am. She rolled her eyes. You're not being flexible at all. Why can't you just see that this will benefit us both in the long run? Don't you want the best future possible? Daddy's offered to help with the cost. I was appalled. The fight escalated, and she stormed out of the apartment, claiming I was ungrateful and short-sighted. For a moment, I even questioned if I was the one being stubborn. I called my father for advice, and he was furious on my behalf. He said, if she wants you to carve up your face just for status, who's to say she won't demand more changes in the future? This doesn't sound like love. This sounds like control. That resonated with me, but I still loved her and wanted to believe we could work through this. Maybe she just needed some perspective, I told myself. Unfortunately, her tactics became bolder. One evening, she actually ambushed me with a plastic surgeon at a dinner party. She invited me to a casual get-together at her friend's house, then introduced me to a man who turned out to be a surgeon specializing in jaw augmentation. She left me alone with him in the corner of the living room, where he began discussing all the advanced procedures and how subtle or dramatic the results could be. I felt blindsided. It was manipulative to the extreme. When I confronted her afterward, she smirked like she had done me some big favor. You didn't have to schedule an appointment, she said in a sing-song voice. He was right there to answer any questions. That's not a big deal, is it? I was too angry to respond. I just left the party, ignoring her pleas to stay. She followed me home later. She tried sweet-talking, spinning the narrative that it was just a harmless introduction, that it never hurt to learn about options. The more she tried, the more I realized how controlling she was. All she cared about was how she looked to her social circle. My personal comfort or autonomy meant nothing. On top of that, the sheer entitlement she and her parents displayed, like altering my face was as trivial as getting a haircut, started to infuriate me. A week went by with us barely speaking. Then she pulled another stunt, this time dragging her mother into the fray. Her mother called me, claiming she was just concerned about my future with her daughter. She said, we've always maintained the highest standards for our children. We really respect tradition and appearance. In our circle, you never know who's watching. If you want to be respected, you must be open to self-improvement. It's just a small procedure. How can that overshadow your bond? I wanted to scream at her. Instead, I calmly explained that my face wasn't up for negotiation. Her response, maybe you should speak to a counselor about why you're so resistant. A good partner is willing to compromise. We're not talking about changing who you are, just upgrading your looks a bit. I couldn't believe she used the word upgrade like I was some outdated phone. And that was exactly how they saw me, a device to be polished and displayed. I felt sick. I asked her to put my fiancé on the phone. She refused and ended the call with, please think carefully. We're only trying to help you fit into our family. 2 nights later, my fiancé came to my apartment unexpectedly. She was dressed in this upscale outfit, hair meticulously done, and eyes brimming with forced determination. She gave me an ultimatum. If you really love me, you'll do this. You'll see the bigger picture. My parents want to invest in your procedure, And this is just the start of many benefits you'll enjoy once you join our family. Don't be selfish. We're all rooting for you. I clenched my jaw. Ironically, the very feature she wanted to change. You're basically telling me I have to buy my way into your family with my own face. She frowned. Don't twist my words. This is about mutual benefit. Look at my father. He's had multiple procedures done to maintain a commanding presence. It's normal. Before I could argue further, she continued, we have a pre-wedding dinner next month. Our entire circle will be there. I want you to have at least scheduled the surgery by then. A consultation, a plan, anything. If you won't, then I don't know what this engagement even means. That was the last straw. I told her she was free to go. She, looking flabbergasted, demanded to know if I was throwing everything away. I responded, no, you did. By demanding I sacrifice my sense of self so you can parade me around. I asked her to leave. She called me heartless, and I told her to pack up any of her belongings. We were done. There was no wedding, no fiancé status left. She stormed out in tears, but I couldn't even muster sympathy anymore. Every ounce of my being felt betrayed. For the next few days, I was bombarded by calls from her father and mother. They were outraged, accusing me of humiliating their daughter. Her father, in a condescending tone, said, we expected better from someone we were going to welcome into our circle. I told him that if he wanted someone to look perfect for photographs, maybe he should hire a model. Then I blocked their numbers. Update 1. About a week after the breakup, I found out she was telling everyone in her social circle that I was an insecure fiancé who couldn't handle simple self-improvement. She implied I was too financially unstable to afford the procedure, painting me as some paranoid person who imagined insults where there were none. A mutual friend gave me a heads up, telling me how she was twisting the narrative to make me look like the villain. Apparently, she was telling people I was jealous of her lifestyle and refused a kind offer from her parents. All of this was laughably dishonest, but that was her way of preserving her image. Then came the real shock. She threatened me with a lawsuit for breach of promise regarding the wedding. I laughed out loud when I first heard that through a friend. Most states don't even recognize that as a valid claim anymore, especially not in a scenario like ours. But it showed she was going to try every dirty trick. She had an attorney send a letter demanding compensation for the non-refundable venue deposit. The letter claimed I caused undue emotional distress by changing my mind about the wedding. I was livid. I consulted a legal clinic. The attorney there said her case was nearly baseless. Yes, historically, some states had old laws about breach of promise, but modern courts rarely entertain them seriously, especially if it's not tied to tangible, significant damages. A venue deposit might be considered, but I was told not to worry too much because we never signed any contract together for the wedding expenses, and her name alone was on the deposit. The attorney advised me to send a polite but firm response indicating I was not liable. I replied through my own legal counsel. That escalated things. Her father started emailing me, claiming I was dragging the family name through the mud and that they had influential connections who could make my life difficult. I kept all messages documented. My lawyer told me to stay calm. Eventually, they realized they had a weak case and backed off the legal threats, at least for the moment. Update 2. I thought that might be the end of it. But her entitlement only grew. She started posting passive-aggressive updates on social media, claiming she'd narrowly escaped a toxic relationship. She said that I was controlling, that I didn't let her have any say in the wedding plans, and that I threw tantrums. It was a complete reversal of reality, but her high society friends believed her. They sent me nasty messages, calling me a deadbeat who tried to leech off her. One particular message said, "How dare you accuse her of changing you? She's just trying to make you the best version of yourself." That was the final push I needed to go on offense. I had compiled months of texts, voicemails, and pictures that showed her attempts to pressure me into cosmetic surgery. I had messages from her mother urging me to get upgraded, from the father calling me an embarrassment if I didn't comply, and even from the plastic surgeon she ambushed me with, emailing me possible surgery dates. I posted a detailed account on my personal page, accessible to mutual friends and acquaintances. I explained point by point how the entire situation unfolded, how they demanded I alter my appearance, how they tried to manipulate me with threats of social exclusion, and how they tried to extort me with a bogus lawsuit. I attached screenshots redacted for privacy to prove every claim. Then I ended with, This family wanted a trophy. I'm a human being, not a plastic figurine. I refused their demands to surgically change my face for their superficial circle. They turned vindictive, tried to sue me, and spread lies about my character. Please see the attached messages that speak for themselves. Once I posted it, I took a deep breath, unsure how people would react. My phone blew up within minutes. Friends I hadn't heard from in years reached out, sending supportive messages. Even some of her old friend who apparently had a falling out with her, voiced their support, saying they always suspected she was superficial but never had concrete proof of her manipulative tendencies. My post caused major damage to her precious image. Word spread like wildfire in her circle. One friend told me she was livid and tried to do damage control, but the evidence I posted was too overwhelming. She couldn't wiggle out of it by just calling me a liar anymore. That was my sweet revenge. Her own words and her own mother's messages were out in the open, betraying the family's vanity and attempts at coercion. She tried to strike back, claiming the screenshots were fabricated, but I had them verified by a third-party friend who saw them firsthand on my phone. She had no leg to stand on. Eventually, she retreated from social media altogether, presumably to lick her wounds. Her father made one last attempt at intimidation, sending me a raging email about how I had destroyed his daughter's social standing. I forwarded it to my attorney, who told me to ignore it. Legally, they had no recourse. They'd been exposed. Update 3. Just when I thought things were quieting down, her father tried one more angle. He approached my workplace. Because I work in marketing and interact with various clients, he tried to contact my company's management, painting me as someone who engaged in online harassment. He wanted them to believe I was smearing his family name with malicious posts. I got called into a meeting with my manager, who had received a formal complaint from him. However, I had already informed my boss of the situation. I provided my side of the story along with the evidence I'd collected. My manager was completely on my side, especially after seeing the manipulative messages. The complaint was dismissed, and my manager told me, "That father's out of line. We won't entertain any more nonsense from him." I wrote one final cease and desist letter through my attorney, warning her father that if he continued to harass me or contact my employer, I'd pursue a harassment suit. This letter seemed to work because the barrage of calls and emails finally dropped off. I learned from a mutual acquaintance that they'd shifted their narrative, telling everyone I was unhinged and that I'd trap any future partner in a legal storm if they so much as dared to disagree with me. Clearly, they were desperate to salvage their reputation. Meanwhile, my ex-fiancée attempted to spin a new version of events, telling people that I leaked private messages to the public, ignoring the fact that she had first tried to slander me and intimidate me with legal action. Most of the mutual acquaintances we shared are now either neutral or leaning in my favor, given the evidence. A few of her loyal high society friends still blindly support her, but that's not my concern. I'm satisfied knowing I revealed her entitlement for what it was. In the aftermath, some friends advised me to send a direct message to everyone in her circle, but I chose to let the public post speak for itself. My best friend told me I'd done enough. Any further action might look vindictive. I agreed. At that point, the revenge was complete. The mask she wore in front of all those fancy friends had fallen, and they'd seen the family's obsession with perfection. It was a fair conclusion. I didn't fabricate anything, and I didn't retaliate until they forced my hand by threatening my career and bombarding me with false accusations. It took me a while to process all of this emotionally. My self-esteem took a hit. I questioned whether I missed glaring signs of vanity and manipulation early in the relationship. Looking back, it's obvious now. The subtle hints, the constant remarks about my appearance, her family's fixation on external status, these were red flags I foolishly dismissed, hoping they were quirks rather than deep-rooted values. I realize it's better I discovered the truth before we legally tie the knot. If I had gone through with a marriage, who knows how much more controlling she or her family might have become. Sometimes I catch myself wondering what would have happened if I'd caved in and gone through with the surgery. Perhaps we would have married, and I'd be in a golden cage, forever changing myself to meet their superficial standards. Maybe it would have just been the beginning of a long list of demands. I'm relieved I chose to stand up for my autonomy instead. In the end, I'm grateful for the clarity. I learned that real love has nothing to do with forced cosmetic changes or social status. If someone's main concern is how you reflect on their image, rather than supporting who you are, that's not love, It's a transaction. I wanted a partner, not a shallow critic.